All Souls Unitarian Universalist Church, building community, inspiring growth, creating change. Here in the heart of Kansas City, we come together to create this hour of shared reflection so that we might be renewed in courage for these times and inspired to lives of greater dignity, higher purpose, deeper generosity, and more effective action. If you are new to Unitarian Universalism or to our congregation, we want to get to know you and share part of your journey. If this place is already your spiritual home, welcome once more. We need one another, and it is good to be together again. Because we care for one another's safety, our congregation is gathering online during this long season of coronavirus pandemic. Nevertheless, through the gifts of technology, we continue to celebrate community and connections as we lean into the values of justice, compassion, and reason. Together, we learn the love that has the power to overcome both loneliness in the heart and oppression in the world. Welcome to our service this morning. May the words and music and images that we offer today nourish our best selves, calling forth abundant wisdom and love.
Arise, O souls, all arise.
Good morning, and welcome to a new program season here at All Souls. As we and other Unitarian Universalist congregations prepare to gather again, mostly online, for a new congregational year, the world has profoundly changed. As time passes, it will always continue to change. And a question that has to be asked, says my colleague David Miller, is how we can honor the past, understand our history, provide a place of spiritual stability and grounding, and yet adapt our congregational life to meet the shifting needs of a rapidly changing world. In a year when it has been proven once again through the very air we breathe that what happens to one happens to all, how will we reach across difference to save each other and our republic and this sacred home that we call Earth? How will we keep our minds and hearts open to what may come and stay willing to be changed? May the love of others truly enter not only our hearts, but also our places of worship, wherever they may be at this moment. May the ability to reach out in compassion flow through our hands and feet and words to touch a hurting and troubled world. May the desire to honor the past allow us to learn its lessons, but not impede our work in this time of deep division and unfolding crisis. May we arise as a beacon of love, not just among ourselves, but together with all those who believe in justice, equity, and compassion, wherever they may be. As we kindle the many chalices that sustain the light of our living tradition, may we commit ourselves again to travel through this coming congregational year with a sense of purpose and urgency infused into our programs, our worship, our connections, and our incredibly interdependent lives. I invite you to share in the comments where your chalice is lighted this morning. As we return again to this covenant community of memory and promise, I invite us to speak together once more the words of our enduring commitment to one another. Together we affirm, goodwill is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Now let us lift our voices together with those of our musical leaders as we join in the chorus of Somos el Barco.
The boat we are sailing in was built by many hands, and the sea we are sailing on, it touches many lands. Somos el barco, somos el mar, yo navego en ti, tú navegas en mí. We are the boat, we are the sea, I sail in you, The voyage has been long and hard, and yet we're sailing still, with a song to help us pull together, if we only will. Somos el barco, somos el mar, yo navego en ti, tú navegas en mí. We are the boat, we are the sea. I sail in you, you sail in me. So with our hopes we set the sails and face the winds once more. And with our hearts we chart the waters never sailed before. Somos el barco, somos el mar, yo navego en ti, tú navegas en mí. We are the boat, we are the sea. I sail in you, you sail in me.
I am Andrea Johnson. I'm currently serving as president of the Board of Trustees. I like meetings, policies, and organization. This is my third year on the board, but I attended my first board meeting several years before that. They are open meetings, by the way, if you're interested in coming. Every meeting starts with a chalice lighting and then a reading of the board covenant, a set of statements that reminds the trustees of the reasons that they are there and of the acceptable behavior in the meeting and in the congregation as a representative of the board. The first phrase of that covenant caught my attention the very first time I heard it. This year's board just had our yearly annual planning meeting, and one of the activities that we do at that meeting each year is to review and tweak our board covenant to make it unique to the current board. In my opinion, the most important part of this exercise is the discussion of the parts of the covenant, what they really mean, and the sharing of the history that necessitated a certain item or the particular phrasing. This connects us back to previous boards and lets us learn a little more about our newest members and gives us a framework for the work that we plan on doing in the coming year. The very first phrase of the covenant: treat board service as a spiritual practice. Each year, the new board makes that covenant their own, but for at least 8 years, maybe more, the opening phrase has been unchanged. Treat board service as a spiritual practice. I have a spiritual side. I am inspired by the rituals, stories, and music of others, but I can't say that I practice any of those religiously. I don't wake up every morning craving a meditative walk or needing a musical moment. Solving problems, improving processes, those things can fill me with excitement and joy and a sense of accomplishment. Just ask anyone who I've caught up in a chat after a check-in that turns into a 2-hour impromptu database meeting or website discussion, or, well, you get my drift. So when I sat in as a guest at my first board meeting and I heard treat board service as a spiritual practice read at the beginning of a meeting, it struck a chord. It was a validation of my geeky behaviors. If the board considered their paper-pushing, decision-making, policy-creating work could be part of spiritual practice, I could too. What do you consider your spiritual practice? How does All Souls support you in your spiritual practice? How can you support others in their spiritual practice? The offering will now be virtually given and gratefully received. To give online, look for the link in the chat or find the Support All Souls button on our website at allsoulskc.org. You can also look in the chat for our address if you'd like to mail a check.
Standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the lights of the heavens in our beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, hail the great winds urging me on, greet the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor's song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home.
Let's say together the words of dedication for our offering. We dedicate our offerings and our actions to the mission at the heart of this congregation, to build a respectful, caring community, to inspire personal and spiritual growth, and to create change toward a just and compassionate society.
Ann Maston, Ph.D., a psychologist and professor of child development at the University of Minnesota, says, it's harder for high achievers. The more accustomed you are to solving problems, to getting things done, to having a routine, the harder it will be on you because none of that is possible right now. You get feelings of hopelessness and helplessness, and those aren't good. That mindset is an especially American one. Our culture is very solution-oriented, which is a good way of thinking for many things. It's partly responsible for getting a man on the moon and a rover on Mars and all the things we've done in this country that are wonderful. But it's a very destructive way of thinking when you're faced with a problem that has no solution, at least for a while. In this case, it is a loss of a way of life, of the ability to meet up with your friends and extended family. It is perhaps the loss of trust in our government. It's the loss of our freedom to move about in our daily life as we used to. Why do you think you should be used to this by now? We're all beginners at this. This is a once-in-a-lifetime experience. It's expecting a lot to think we'd be managing this really well already.
There are two ways the brain deals with the world: the future and the things we need to go after, and the here and now, seeing things and touching things. Michael Mattis, MD, a professor of thoracic surgery at the University of Minnesota, says, rather than being at the mercy of what's going on, we can use the elements of our natural reward system and construct things to do that are good no matter what. Those kind of activities have both a planning element and a here and now experience element. The biggest protective factors for facing adversity and building resilience are social support and remaining connected to people, Ann Maston says. That includes helping others, even when we're feeling depleted ourselves. Helping others is one of those win-win strategies of taking action because we're all feeling a sense of helplessness and loss of control about what's going on in this pandemic. But when you take action with other people, you can control what you are doing, she says. Helping others could include checking in on family friends or buying groceries for an elderly neighbor.
Dr. Pauline Boss, a family therapist and professor emeritus of the social sciences at the University of Minnesota, who specializes in ambiguous loss, says there's an alternative to binary thinking that many people find helpful in dealing with ambiguous loss. She calls it both and thinking, and sometimes it means embracing a bit of the irrational. If you stay in the rational when nothing else is rational, like right now, then you'll just stress yourself more. She says, what I say with ambiguous loss is the situation is crazy, not the person. The situation is pathological, not the person. An analogous approach during the pandemic might be, this is terrible and many people are dying. And this is also a time for our families to come closer together, Boss says. On a more personal level, I'm highly competent, and right now, I'm just flowing with the tide day by day. It's a bit of a Schrodinger's existence, but when you can't change the situation, the only thing you can change is your perception of it, she says. Of course, that doesn't mean denying the existence of the pandemic or the coronavirus. You have to face reality. But how we frame that reality mentally can help us cope with it.
In her poem, Pandemic, my colleague Lynn Unger says this: what if you thought of it as the Jews consider the Sabbath, the most sacred of times? Cease from travel, cease from buying and selling. Give up just for now on trying to make the world different than it is. Sing, pray, touch only those to whom you commit your life. Center down. And when your body has become still, reach out with your heart. Know that we are connected in ways that are terrifying and beautiful. You could hardly deny it now. Know that our lives are in one another's hands. Surely that has come clear. Do not reach out your hands. Reach out your heart. Reach out your words. Reach out all the tendrils of compassion that move invisibly where we cannot touch. Promise this world your love, for better or for worse, in sickness and in health, so long as we all shall live. can we just acknowledge that this stopped being novel and exciting a while ago now? There was a certain sense of, yay, snow day, in the very beginning. Now it's more like being trapped inside by a 6-month blizzard. It gets old really quick. We are missing our people, missing our routines, missing many of our familiar pleasures. We are bored and scared and getting seriously annoyed. Most of us have the inner resources to deal with this state of affairs for some period of time. But the problem is that there is no end in sight. Vaccines and treatments for the coronavirus are in the works, but there is really no telling when something actually effective will appear, and people are still dying from this pandemic. If it hasn't already touched you or someone you love, it will soon enough. As the first wave of noble self-restraint and sacrifice for the common good ebbs away into everyday deprivation, it becomes reasonable to ask, what does our faith suggest that we do now? For some people, there is comfort to be found in the ability to just trust God, the idea that somewhere, somehow, there is a purpose behind all this and a structure with some sort of predetermined endpoint. Like a small child in the back seat on a road trip, we can sit still and assume that the driver knows where they are going and has our best interests at heart. We might occasionally be moved to demand, are we there yet? But the journey and its destination are not in our hands. It's a helpful way to get through a stressful time, but for many of us, that scenario just isn't persuasive. For us, human intention and action have the power to change what happens next, and we must take responsibility for what we do or choose not to do. If our own intelligence and dedication to the world's shared well-being are going to make a crucial difference, how can we sustain our patience, our courage, and wisdom for the long haul? Journalist Tara Haley interviewed a number of experts on human thought and behavior, asking why just dealing with daily life during COVID seems so difficult. Why aren't we better at this by now, she asked. Why is it so hard? While a handful of people have been able to use the influx of time and the lowering of distractions as an opportunity to focus and accomplish some personal goals, most of us are at the same moment antsy and exhausted, overwhelmed by the need to learn new skills and habits overnight, and unable to access many of our familiar comforts and self-soothing techniques. All the people Haley talked to said it was not surprising that many of us are struggling. Evolution has formed us to be clever and innovative, but also to be creatures of habit and social conformity. We are accustomed to changes in our common life that unfold over time, giving us the chance to process and integrate them. The sudden emergency of this pandemic has turned much of our familiar world upside down. We went from old normal to new normal in the course of a month, and the outlines of that new normal have yet to come clearly into focus even now, barely 6 months later. It is easy to become both panicked and disheartened in these circumstances. We have to continue to function. Parents, caregivers, medical professionals, teachers, distribution chain workers, are all more essential than ever. And most of us have households to maintain and possibly jobs to do or else to look for. Giving up is a temptation, but not really an option. Hysteria is itself unsustainable over time and not entirely helpful in the moment. So how do we maintain our sanity and our capacity to carry on in the face of danger, uncertainty, loss, and change with no end in sight? I want to offer the following suggestions from Haley's article, 3 foundational necessities for a coherent life that have not changed with the advent of COVID. These are touchstones that are easy to lose sight of in the urgencies of the moment, but they are the bedrock realities that will get us through the storm and be there still when it is over enough that we can begin to pick up the pieces and reassemble a sustainable cultural life and routine. The first of these is a sense of values, a commitment to ideals, what some might name as faith. To me, it is the question, what kind of person do you want to be? There are many possible answers: kind, honest, responsible, generous, creative, grateful, humble, noble, productive, loyal, wise, among many others. And each of us has our own constellation of qualities that we aspire to. We need to carry the awareness of that vision for ourselves in our consciousness as we respond to the current series of emergencies. Circumstances do not determine the quality of our personhood. Our choices in whatever circumstances we encounter do. Remembering who we want to be can help us regulate our intense reactions, including fear, anger, and disgust, all of which may be triggered by pandemic realities. The parallel question, what kind of world, nation, city, family do I want to build and participate in, can also be helpful as we consider what public measures to demand or protest or support. We are probably deeply in that moment that Robert Frost describes, when the mob is swayed to carry praise or blame too far, when the best thing to do is choose something distant and enduring, like a star, to stay our minds on and be stayed. Now is a good time to recall what you have always said you believe in, to measure your own behavior and our collective action accordingly. The second enduring foundation stone is a commitment to reflective practice. This can be quiet inner work like meditation or journaling. It can be embodied creativity like making art or cooking or music or gardening. It can be active compassion like protesting injustice or feeding the hungry or working on a local issue or a national legislative agenda. The important commonality is that it is done with intention and self-awareness, that it feeds your spirit and opens your heart. You can mow the lawn just to get that chore out of the way, but that is not gardening as practice. You can make a daily list of errands and projects, but that is not journaling as practice. You can show up at a demonstration and yell at the president, but that is not protest as practice. The practice that will see you through hard times is one that summons you back to your center and purpose, that makes a space of reflection and insight within the haste and worry or the boredom and constraint of these anxious days. Some people find it in stillness, reading poetry or scripture. Some people find it in the physical challenge of hiking or yoga. Whatever serves to clear your mind rather than burden it with more fretting and exasperation. It may be easy to feel that there isn't time for something that doesn't appear productive, or that your energy is entirely consumed by practical demands. One way to recognize a genuine practice for you is that it actually leaves you renewed and more relaxed, even though it may be mentally or physically challenging. Everyone has occasional moments when their practice feels flat. This often actually comes just before a breakthrough in insight or technique. But in general, the activity is a source of engagement and relief. This is not just about doing fun or enjoyable things, though that is a fine use of time also. But true practice is ongoing. It unfolds and deepens over time, taking you to places that were not accessible at the beginning. This will help us to survive the crises of the world around us, for it is in mindfulness practice that much of the work of meaning-making happens. Even, as Khalil Gibran's prophet observes, while the hands hew the stone or tend the loom. Do the thing that takes you to a deep or quiet place, that lets the well of your patience, wholeness, and hope refill. Finally, of course, you knew I was going to end up here, didn't you? We need connections and community. By whatever means necessary, we must reach out, with words and hearts, if not with hands, to stay in relationship. We need people who will be there for us, and people who understand that we will be there for them, if only on the other side of a screen. The human condition is not designed to function in isolation. Paradoxically, our individuality only has meaning in the context of a social group, and our associations are most life-giving when they rest on the freely given assent of individuals. While COVID teaches us to remember the dangers of too much togetherness, we must not conclude that our ultimate safety lies in separation. The struggle against this disease is itself a cooperative endeavor, for one thing. The global information network means that what one learns, everyone who can comprehend it usually knows sooner rather than later. When some vaccine or cure or effective prevention clicks into place, global connections will be needed to ensure that it is distributed, for none of us will be safe until all of us are safe. And when that day comes, it is going to matter that we used all the tools we had to sustain community. What we return to will not be exactly what we fled from, certainly, but we will need there to still be families and book clubs and choirs and bars and beaches and, no doubt, churches. As unskilled and artificial and tentative as it sometimes feels, I urge you to stick with your people here and elsewhere. Try out the experimental events and the new technologies. Let yourself be reminded that you are not alone. We are in different boats, to be sure, but we're all in the same storm here, friends. The losses are real and grievous. The hardships are onerous. The loneliness is profound. And the world is, in many ways, not the safe place we wanted it to be. Both changes and dangers lie before us still, and there are still values to live up to. There are still activities that offer growth and peace. There are still the dearly beloveds whose hearts reach out to ours across the distances. Deep in the veins of the earth, as in each of our bodies, the waters of life still run, renewing and nurturing, following their ancient paths. In a world on fire, says one of my colleagues, water is salvation. When an entire state is burning, Oregon, California, Washington, water is, as always, life, relief, surcease, a cooling abatement. Raindrops sizzle at first and then in quantity extinguish, leaving soot, but the flames no longer roaring, the smoke not billowing and bitter. The river is a barrier and a place of safety. A coastline turns the inferno back, baffled. Dryness is our ancient danger. Life must have moisture, the tribute to our heritage from the sea. Water connects us. Water sustains us. Water nourishes us. The element of fire is demanding, consuming, the energy of rage. Water conforms, complies, cools, is patient, endures, wears away over time. Water interrupts the inferno that scars the land, laying fire to rest, laying the earth to healing, laying air to gentleness. And so we wait with water for the end, for quiet and rest. Water connects us. Water sustains us. Water nourishes our hope. And in the meantime, we bring our concerns, our anxiety, our fear, our sorrow, and our hope to the fountain that we share. We will ground all these expressions of our humanity here in this suffering earth, still straining for breath. We will allow ashes to fall on us until the rains come, and let them sink with the life-giving showers into the flesh of the planet whose children we are, still and always. Water connect us. Water sustain us. Water nourish our hope. Water connect us. Water sustain us. Water nourish our hope.
Water connect us, water sustain us, water nourish our hope. Water connect us, water sustain us, Water, nourish our hope.
Water, connect us. Water, sustain us. Water, nourish our hope.
I'm with my mom, and we bought some beautiful flowers, and we have water in them from Paracle. Bye.
Water connect us, water sustain us, water nourish our hope.
Water connect us, water sustain us, water nourish our hope.
Water, connect us. Water, sustain us. Water, nourish our hope.
For most of the summer, my accessible space has been bounded by two fountains. From my living room, I see the Parkway Towers fountain in front of our building. This water is from the Parkway Towers fountain. If I go outside from the garage, Mill Creek Park is across the street. I think that's my backyard. The former J.C. Nichols fountain in that park has been a catalyst for change in our community this summer. This water is from the J.C. Nichols Park, which will soon have a new name.
I found a place to walk in the mornings that has beautiful flower gardens, rose gardens, and fountains. And I found it helps me to stay centered and peaceful as I begin my day. So I brought some water from one of the fountains. And I wish for everyone here at All Souls that you will find moments of beauty and peace in your lives every day.
Water connect us, water sustain us, water nourish our hope.
Water, connect us. Water, sustain us. Water, nourish our hope. Water, connect us. Water, sustain us. Water, nourish our hope. Water, connect us. Water, sustain us. Water, nourish our hope.
Water connect us. Water sustain us. Water nourish our hope.
Water connect us, water sustain us, water nourish our hope.
connect us, water sustain us, water nourish our hope.
Water connect us, water sustain us, water nourish our hope. Water connect us.
Water connect us, water sustain us, nourish our hope.
Water connect us, water sustain us, water nourish our hope.
Water connect us, water sustain us, water nurture our hope.
Water connect us, water sustain us,
Water
nourish our hope.
Water connect us, water sustain us, water nourish our hope.
Water connect us, water sustain us, water nourish our hope. Blessed be.
The African-American poet Lucille Clifton offers these words for the blessing of the boats and of our spirits. May the tide that is entering even now the lip of our understanding carry you out beyond the face of fear. May you kiss the wind, then turn from it, certain that it will love your back. May you open your eyes to water, water waving forever. And may you, in your innocence, sail through this, all this, into that.
Strength of water takes on many forms, just as each of us has a unique and necessary strength that we bring to our community and the work of love. Take a moment now to drop down into the deep wellspring of your own spirit and bathe yourself in the strength that is the groundwater of your person. Are you a roaring fall wearing rock away with sheer force of will? Are you a small sliver of water in a crevice, breaking it open slowly and steadily? Are you buoyant, like a great salt lake, practiced at holding yourself or others aloft? Are you tenacious like the mountain stream, finding your way down and around and through every obstacle you face? Are you still and calm like the pond at daybreak? Radiant peace found by your shores. Are you in touch with hidden depths, pulling from a vast well deep within? Do you soothe like the steam rising from a cup of tea? Do you dissolve away stubborn muck like dishwater? Do you soften and smooth the edges like a creeping fog? Do you clear away distraction like a cleansing rain? Do you roll with the ebb and flow, with the rhythm of the ocean waves? Settle your mind upon the strength, the power that is yours. Draw that strength into your heart, draw it up into your soul, and there find peace. As we endure difficult times together, we need each of our power, each of our resilience, each of our love to make us whole.
Thank you for being part of our celebration this morning. We invite you to join us now on Zoom for our virtual social hour and to check out our All Souls website to sign up for the Sunday Plus meal on September 27th, the garden tour in the next 2 Saturdays, and several adult religious education series starting soon. We hope you will be with us next week for the community forum at 10 o'clock and the 11:15 service, when we will consider the history of incarceration in our society and what its implications are for today. Please, everyone, stay safe and be well this week.